Hello, I'm Emily Rhodes, and today I'm going to be talking to you about this book, Journey by Moonlight by Antal Szerb, translated from Hungarian into English by Len Rix. This is an amazing book, and hopefully over the next 10-15 minutes, I'm going to tell you about why I think it's amazing, and you're also going to be inspired to read it. So what's this book about? I'm going to begin with the opening two sentences, which I think are just so brilliant, so intriguing. On the train, everything seemed fine. The trouble began in Venice with the back alleys. What trouble? And, how did we get from the train into the back alleys of Venice? Why are we in Venice? So many questions, and also very simple language, short sentences, short words. It's very immediately readable, and it kind of catches you. You think, what's going on? So we're in Venice with Mihaly, who is there on his honeymoon with Ötzi, and we instantly can tell all is not well. All's not going to go well for this marriage. Already on their honeymoon, he's wandering off among the back alleys of Venice, leaving her in the hotel. When he comes back, he can't talk to her about what's going on. He's obviously going through not just a physical journey and kind of wandering around the back alleys, but some kind of deep emotional, psychological journey. Something about these back alleys of Venice is very uncanny and sort of unsettling for him. So soon after this, I think they're in Ravenna at this point, they have this encounter with someone from Mihaly's past, and he's kind of quite rude and insults Ötzi. And then after this encounter, Mihaly tells Ötzi about this kind of formative experience for him, which was his adolescent obsession with a brother and sister, Tamás and Eva. And he talks about their household, how they're just so completely wild. He's from a very petit bourgeois kind of life, very conventional. He's married Ötzi in part because she's giving a lot of money to the family firm. He's kind of settled into this bourgeois life, but this encounter with someone from his past has reminded him of this time in his youth when he very much wanted to be wild and different and unconventional and other, like this brother and sister, Eva and Tamás. So we learn about them and their kind of extraordinary life. They're very obsessed with death and suicide. So yeah, there's a trigger warning here. There's a lot about suicide and death. Anyway, very soon after this, Mihaly accidentally, on purpose, loses his wife. They're on a train, he gets off, he gets back onto a different train, and it's not really clear as to whether he did this on purpose, subconsciously. He then embarks on this journey around Italy, beginning in the north, ending up in Rome in the south. And on this journey, there's this kind of picaresque adventure feeling as he's kind of wandering around, and these sort of strange things happen. There's an encounter with a monk. He has some time in a hospital. There's a lot of feeling of like visits from the dead, this kind of uncanniness. So there's that sort of strange, almost slightly occult feeling in the journey. And then there's also this feeling of his psychological journey as he is trying to come to terms with leaving this adolescent obsession behind and settling into later more conventional life, or maybe he can't do that. So this journey happens, and we're along for the ride, and it's sort of extraordinary. So the title in English is Journey by Moonlight, but in Hungarian, there's expert accent here now, Utas es Holdvilág. definitely haven't said that right, which apparently means traveller and moonlight. So it is slightly different, Journey by Moonlight, Traveller and Moonlight. But I think, I think there is really key to this book is the idea of a traveller, someone on a journey. And it made me wonder a little bit about journeys more generally. I don't know if you've been on any great journeys. Maybe you've got some good journeys planned over the summer. And particularly this kind of nice crossover between a physical journey and an emotional journey. It's that age-old cliche, isn't it? You go traveling to discover something about yourself. You travel physically to have an emotional journey too. And I think actually many of the characters in the book are on some kind of journey, not just Michali. There's also, in fact, I made a little list of like ones who were on a journey and ones who weren't, who were in a kind of stasis. So we often run into these figures who are sort of traveling around Italy as well. They're all kind of chasing each other or avoiding each other. And then there are these other ones who are very settled in one place, and often part of being settled in that place is being settled in their life. Towards the end of the book, Michali runs into Waldheim, it's probably pronounced Waldheim, who he knew from university. He's a tutor, and he reflects that he's well, let me see if I can find the page. He says, okay, I'm going to read this little bit out. When he sees Waldheim, he says, "Here's a man who's achieved the impossible," he thought with a touch of envy as Waldheim stuffed the raw ham into his mouth and continued to hold forth. "There's a man who's managed to stay fixed at the age that suits him. Everyone has one age that's just right for him, that's certain. There are people who remain children all their lives, and there are others who never cease to be awkward and absurd, who never find their place until suddenly they become splendidly wise old men and women. They have come to their real age. The amazing thing about Waldheim is that he's managed to remain a university student at heart, without having to give up the world or success or the life of the mind. He's gone down a path where his emotional immaturity doesn't seem to be noticed or is even an advantage. And he pays only as much heed to reality as is consistent with the limitations of his own being. That's wonderful. Now, if only I could manage something like that." It's a really interesting idea, this thought that there are people... I feel like I do meet older people who still seem like children, and also younger people who seem kind of improbably wise, and this feeling of people kind of growing into themselves or regressing back. I don't know, but there are these some people, I suppose, when they're kind of confident in themselves and are happy in where they are, both physically and emotionally, they are there. They're not really going on this quest of self-discovery, this adventurous journey. They're kind of there. Obviously, maybe they're still journeying intellectually into places or things like that, but in terms of their core beings, they have found themselves. They are here, they're present. And I think sometimes when you meet someone, they have such a presence about them, and that's often because they're so confident in who they are. Michali is kind of the opposite. He's sort of scrambling around, trying to come to terms with who he is, and that's why he's on this journey. So I thought that was a very interesting idea, this journeying, not journeying, and the kind of turning the metaphor, realising the metaphor of that in quite a physical way. Something particularly about train tracks, you're very much like on the straight and narrow, and it's when he gets off the train, Michali, that it all kind of unravels. So it's made me think about journeys and travelling and finding yourself or being happy in yourself. There's so much in it about death and about love and the overlap. And I did think there was something interesting about moonlight and honeymoon, and what happens in the dark, and the moon being such kind of interesting light. It changes every night, and there's the full moon where there's loads of moonlight, and then there's, the time when there's no moon and it's all dark and you're sort of hunting for that moonlight. And I hadn't ever thought about the moon and honeymoon before. What else do I have to say about this? Oh yeah, so then kind of, okay, so hopefully you've got this idea that the book, there's like masses in this book. It's fascinating psychologically. It's a wonderful tour of Italy. It's quite kind of bonkers and out there with all this kind of occult, spiritual stuff going on. It's very funny in times, even though so much of it is about death and suicide. There's this tone of irony throughout, which is almost a bit like Jane Austen. It's been compared to, the feeling of the authorial voice and the main character, and where the irony is, and who's exactly saying and thinking what. But then I think I also just wanted to say that Len Rix, who translated this in 2000, apparently learned Hungarian in order to translate this book, which I think is extraordinary, as Hungarian is apparently an incredibly difficult language, possibly the most difficult language. So, so good that, inspired someone to learn the language better in order to translate it. And a little bit about Antal Szerb himself, who sounds like he was, one of the most intelligent people who had ever lived. He died at the age of, I think it was 43, in a forced labour camp under the Nazis. Although he was Jewish, he was kind of Catholic from birth. He was baptised, but what's the word? He had Jewish heritage. He had Jewish blood, so went to the labour camp. I think, incredibly sadly, he kind of could have escaped, but decided not to abandon his fellow artists and writers there. He had these two really great friends there, thought to have been beaten to death. So he lived this very short life. I mean, he died only 3 years on from me, and in that short life, he had translated loads of works. I think he loved P.G. Wodehouse. He was a real Anglophile, and actually, he's written these other books. What I think was his first book. Oh my goodness, what's it called? The Pendragon Legend, and that's all set around England. He spent some time here, and it feels, to me, that book feels quite like Tintin. This kind of adventure. So he translated England. He was a real English. He was a real Anglophile. He also had written, I think, sort of about 3 volumes of 3 different histories of literature before he even started writing his novels. So he was hugely prolific, hugely academic, this incredible man, and it's so sad, that his life ended so soon. What a loss to all that literature that wasn't written by him. So I urge you to read this book. Oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to say about journeys, now I'm looking at the title again, is there's this feeling a journey can be a quest, right? But there's also a journey can be a flight. And I suppose thinking about how much of a journey is a choice in where you want to go and discover things, but also a journey you're maybe forced into. If you think of sort of migrants, refugees, running away from something. And I think both sides of journey come across in this book. Right, read the book. This is the July 2024 pick for Emily's Walking Book Club. Do sign up for our newsletter. It's emilyswalkingbookclub.substack.com. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Thank you.